Hey guys, Waterfaller41 here, and in today's video we're going to be installing the new Diode Dynamics fog light kit for my 5th gen Ram Rebel. So a couple weeks back, Diode Dynamics released a whole bunch of new kits for these trucks, some new front light setups, new reverse light setups, and in that release, the fog light kit was released as well. So today we're going to be focusing on that kit. Maybe in the future we look at the other kits, maybe I add a few more SS5s here, but for now let's just focus on what we have at hand, which is the fog light kit. This kit will allow you to install 2 LED pods in the existing fog light pockets on each side of your truck. So what comes in the kit? Well, obviously you're going to get 4 new SSC2 LED pods, and these pods are going to come with the fog light bezel or fog light lens, so they're SAE compliant. Each one of these guys is pumping out a little bit over 1,000 lumens. So we're adding a little bit over 4,000 lumens for our fog lights, and because they're SAE compliant, we're going to make sure we're not going to be blinding oncoming traffic, and we're going to be roadworthy still. Those pods will install on these custom brackets. So these brackets will bolt right into the existing position once we remove the factory LED fog lights. And once we attach obviously the pods to the bracket itself, it'll bolt right into the factory location, so that we'll be able to have a nice clean flush fit on the front of the bumper. So no modifications, 100% bolt on. Since we're going to have 2 pods per side, the kit comes with a splitter. So the splitter is going to plug into each of the LED pods, and then it'll allow one input into the pod itself, and it'll control them in tandem. So you'll simultaneously have control over both of the fog lights. Kit also comes with a wiring harness per side. This will allow you to plug into the factory fog light wiring and then connect that with this DT connector into the splitter that is connected to 2 fog lights. Pretty slick. So it's bolt-on, no wire cutting. It should be a pretty seamless installation. Now, the special thing about these is there's 3 benefits of this kit versus the factory ones. One, you're obviously going to get a little bit more lumen output from these pods versus your factory LED fogs. Factory LED fogs are pretty good. But there's always room for improvement, and that's why we're going to be installing these. Second thing is, because we have 2 pods and they swivel and they'll have a little bit more flexibility in terms of how they're mounting into the factory bumper, we'll be able to aim that lighting a little bit better. So if we want a little bit wider coverage, we'll be able to turn that outside or that outboard light a little bit more. So that's the second benefit. Third benefit, and probably the favorite one, and really why a lot of us are going to be upgrading to this kit, is Diode Dynamics new lights all have backlighting on it. When the fog lights are not on or not being used as fog lights, we will set them up to be wired as amber backlit. So we're going to have a power that'll control them. And like I said, when we're not using as fog lights, they're going to be amber. So they'll match my SS5s nicely. But anyway, all of the new Diode Dynamics pods come with that backlighting feature. Some of them come in just amber, just red, but the SS5s are really the only ones that come in the 8 color option. So pink, cyan, red, all over the place. Anyway, we're going to focus on installing this guy on the truck today. Before we do, let's dive into wiring, because on the kit, like I said, you get a wire harness per side. This is going to plug into the factory plug. This DT connector plugs into the splitter for each of the pods. And then you can see there's a third wire here. This is the wire that's going to control the backlighting. So we want that wire to be on while the truck is running. So let's talk about wiring. Let me go get a piece of paper here real quick, and we'll talk about how and where you can connect this wire, because you have 2 different options. All right, if you already know how you're planning on wiring these guys, you could skip this part, but this is for the folks that are interested in wiring up the backlighting on here. Again, if you are installing the kit as it was intended with all the wires and everything in the kit, this is what we're going to be doing. So amber backlighting, it's going to be its own circuit. It's going to have its own wire here. So the red little plug here is what's going to plug into wherever we're going to grab that backlighting circuit from. What we're looking at here is the pinout of the plug that goes into the back of, in this case, the driver's side headlight. So on the driver's side, we want to make sure that when the truck turns on and these amber markers turn on, we want the backlighting and the fog light to turn on. So that means we want to, on the driver's side, find the white with brown wire, which will be the left front park lamp, and we want to use this little side tap, clip this onto the white with brown wire, and then we want to plug our driver's side harness into that side tap. Then once we plug this into our LED pods, that will tell the backlighting on the driver's side ones to turn on, because it'll coincide the operation of the amber backlighting with that marker light. On the passenger side, Same thing. It's going to be a white with orange wire, and that will tie into the marker light on the passenger side. Again, same thing. We're going to clip this on the white with orange wire. We're going to plug the harness into the side tap, and that will control the amber backlighting with the marker light. Now, from experience, I will tell you, there is 2 white with orange wires in the passenger side kit. You are going to be looking for the thicker of the 2. That will be the one for the parking light. There is another one in here, and I'm not so sure what this function is for, but I could tell you based on my other relay videos, this will not control the backlighting how you want it to. If you are trying to tie the amber backlighting to the marker lamp, you want to use the white with orange wire, the thicker one. It is in pin 13, which is right here. It's going to be the second row. It's going to be 4 in from the left side if you're looking at front on. It's the same pin position on the driver's side as well. It's just a different color. So white with a brown stripe on the driver's side, white with an orange stripe on the passenger side. I apologize for repeating myself here, but I want to make sure that's abundantly clear. So with that said, let's get into the installation. All right, so let's get started on the driver's side. First thing that we're going to want to do is remove this panel here. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 8mm bolts that need to come out. Once you remove those 8mm bolts, those you just need to loosen, but the other 3 you need to completely remove them. Once you do that, this whole panel will pop out and we'll get access to the back side of the fog lights. All right, now that we have our fender liner off, we get clear access to the back of the fog light. So let's take a look at a few things. So we need to remove four things we need to loosen up. First one is this 10mm nut right here. That's the only nut we got to remove. Then there's a 10mm bolt right here that we're going to need to remove. Then we're going to turn our attention to the top. So way back in here, and then right here, there are 2 flat Torx T40 bits. So this is on top of the fog light. You can see the 2 screws here that are what mounts the fog light to the bracket. If you go just above them, there is 2 T40 bits up there that we need to undo. So we're going to undo the top 2. Then we're going to come down, undo this 10mm nut, this 10mm bolt, and then the whole assembly should pop out. So what we can also do is go ahead and unplug the fog light. And then we're also going to need to pull this cable or this little plastic cable management thing off of the back of the fog light so we can pull the whole thing out. All right, so we have the fog light assembly out. Let's take a look at a few things before we get too far into the rest of the installation. This is what you're looking at from the back of the truck, and I said I'd show you those T40 bolts. You see those 2 U nuts right there, so one there, one there. That's what those T40 bolts are threaded into, and again, it's sitting in the bumper like that one. It's a little bit of a hand exercise. You can see my hands kind of cut up a little bit, but you got to get a T40 bit on those things, and here is what the screws look like. Just like the bumper ones when I was doing the brackets on the front bumper stuff. Again, it's just a flat T40 bit, very easy to get loose. Just a little bit of a pain in the butt to access. So again, fog lights in the truck like that, and the T40 bits are threaded in there. This is where that 10mm one goes, and then this is the little hole for the 10mm nut. You see up on top there's a little peg there. Let's see here. Up on top there's this little peg. In order to get the whole assembly out once it's loosened, you're going to want to push down so the peg clears the little guide pin on the back of the bumper, and then pull the whole assembly out. And again, before you do that, just make sure that you have that wire retainer, that little plastic retainer, pulled out of here, because you're going to want to pull this out with a little bit of force. All right, but anyway, now that we have this assembly out of the truck, what we're going to want to do is prepare it for the rest of the assembly. So what we need to do is remove these 4 8mm bolts, and then we're going to go ahead and install our Diode Dynamics bracket in its place once we get that thing set up with the SSC2s. All right, I lied. They're actually 7mm bolts, so there's 4 of them. Once you get those removed, the whole LED fog light assembly pops right out. Let's put that off to the side. So now we have our bracket, and like I said, this is going to get reinstalled on the truck once we have our Diode Dynamic bracket and lights loaded on there. Here is our left side. So again, we're working on the driver's side, so the left side. This is what's going to drop right into that bracket, mount just like that, and that's what's going to hold our SSC2s. But before we can install this on that bracket, we need to go ahead and outfit this bad boy with our SSC2s. So let's go ahead and get our SSC2s pulled out of the box, and then I'll show you how we install this guy back on the bracket, and then we'll drop it back into the truck. All right, so we have our SSC2s mounted to the bracket. Now, one word of advice, you have some adjustability once it's on the truck, But I would definitely try to aim those as best as possible before you get in there, because these bolts are kind of buried behind the bumper and it's really hard to get to. So what I did while I was tightening them is I kept popping this in. Let's see here if I could do it one-handed. I kept popping this in just to kind of align it and make sure I have the right taper. You can push them around a little bit once they're in their position. They can only move so much because they will hit that trim ring around the fog light, but try to aim them as best as possible, or at least get them at the right pitch before you get them installed. So now the last thing we need to do before we go ahead and throw this back in the truck is get this installed back in the bracket. Like I said, you just need 2 of those 7mm bolts, because those are going to drop in right there and there through the bracket just like this. So we can mount the fog light bracket into the factory housing, and then we could get this dropped back into the truck. So now that we have the SSC2s and the Diode Dynamics bracket installed in the factory, I guess, infrastructure, we can go ahead and drop this back into the bumper on the truck. Reinstallation, it's pretty simple. You're going to want to drop this down on that stud on the bottom first, and then pop everything up into place, because remember, you have this pin here. So drop it down and then slide it up into place. This pin will lock it into place before you can get all the screws and everything in there. But again, so let's go ahead and get this guy reinstalled on the truck, and then we'll start talking through the wiring. All right, so this step could have been done before I reinstalled the fog lights back on the truck, or it could be installed afterwards because it's pretty easy to do. But this is the splitter. You got 2 ends that plug into the actual fog lights themselves, and then you got this looks like a female end, but I believe this is actually called the male end. So this is what the rest of the harness is going to connect into. So let's go ahead and plug this into the backs of the SSC2s. You can see them right there. So I got pretty clean access there. So let's plug it in there, and then we will start with the rest of the wiring on the truck. All right, so we have our fog lights reinstalled. We got our splitter on there. We're ready to go. Everything's tightened down. So now we're going to get to the rest of the wiring. So this is our harness. We have this plug right here. This is going to plug right into that factory plug there. We have this plug. This is going to plug into that splitter that goes into the 2 Diode Dynamics lights. If all you want is just the fog light capability, then you are done. But in my case, I want to have that amber backlighting lit, so we need to connect this wire. This is the wire for the backlighting, and we need to tell this when to turn on. So if you are doing it the conventional way, using the side taps that are included here, you're going to find the white with orange wire on the passenger side and the white with brown wire on the driver's side, and that's what you're going to T-tap into and plug these wires into. In my case, I have these Diode Dynamic SS5s. These are controlled by a relay that I have installed right here. For the sake of consistency and for all my backlighting, I like to have everything tied into that relay. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm basically going to add an extension of wire for the driver's side one, and we're going to come up right over here and we're going to connect into that relay. In order to do that, I need to pull this little plastic panel off so I can get access to that wire. But again, if you are only concerned about just the fog lights and you don't have any other backlighting on your truck, then this is the process I would recommend using. Finding pin 13 on both the driver's and passenger side headlight harness, which I believe you can get to from here. If not, you could drop down right here and unplug it. And you are looking for the white with brown wire on the driver's side and white with orange wire on the passenger side. Remember, there are 2 white with orange wires on the passenger side. You're looking for the thicker of the 2. It's going to be in slot 13 on the headlight harness, according to this pinout from Mopar. So let's go ahead and get that front plastic panel removed so I can go up and wire up everything. It's pretty simple from here on out. Just plug these 2 into the plugs, so into the factory plug, into the splitter, and then we'll tie this into our amber lights. So let's go ahead and rock and roll with that. All right, so the wire harness is fully installed. One call out, make sure you're plugging it in the right orientation, and you could check that by plugging in the factory to Diode Dynamics harness, so that's right here, and then turning on the fog lights and making sure they work. If they don't work, flip this plug 180 degrees and then plug it back in. So we're going to go ahead and zip tie up everything out of the way. Go ahead and reinstall the wheel liners here. Again, it's just the 8mm bolts, so it's 2 that are already just loose there, and then 3 along the back of the bumper. And then we will deal with this right here. So this is the amber backlighting wire. So what I'm going to do is tie one end into the switch here. So this is the switch that I use to actually change the colors on here. It controls the output of the relay. So if I just tie it into this wire, it's gonna still get that same feed. The switch turns the power on and off. That way I could change the colors on my SS5s. If you don't have SS5s, there's no reason to even need a switch. I could just tie this right into the relay. So this will tie into the output of my relay here, right at the switch. And then I have my passenger side wire, which what I'll do is I'll just tie it into this wire, which is the output of my relay. So this is the relay that controls all of my daytime running lights or backlights. Like I said, for the sake of consistency, I just like to have everything tied into the same relay. These are really low amp draws. I think I have a 10 amp fuse on this. It's perfect. It just kind of keeps it up and out of the way. And that way I know everything's controlled here. And since I have a switch on here, one flip and I could turn everything off. So let me go ahead, zip tie those wires up out of the way, get the wheel well liners thrown back in there, and then I'll tie these wires into my DRL circuit here, and then we'll fire up everything and take a look and see what it looks like, and then we'll wait till it gets darker outside and go ahead and see what the light pattern looks like. So let me go ahead and get these amber backlight wires tied into my relay, close up everything in the wheel well, and then we'll take a look at what these look like when they function. All right, so my wiring is done. Like I said, I ran everything off of my DRL relay. If you want that video, it's gonna be right up here. But basically, this relay is tied into the wire for this light. So when the marker lights turn on, the relay turns on. The reason I ran the relay originally was because I had Raptor lights on the grill. Then I removed those, installed the SS5s. So now the backlighting on the SS5s is powered off of that relay. So I figured let's go ahead and tie in the backlighting for these guys as well into the same relay. That way they're all controlled on the same circuit. Beauty of the relay is small little load of amperage here is all it needs to trigger the relay, and then the relay actually has its own power from the battery that's fused. So it's a pretty safe way to run power to auxiliary circuits. Again, I'm gonna have that video up in the top corner there, also in the description. So let's get everything cleaned up. Let's get the truck backed out a little bit because everything's kind of crammed up here on the passenger side, and then we'll take a look at the backlighting and then the fog lights. And then, like I said, we'll wait till it's later on tonight, and then we'll take a look at the coverage once we could drive this truck around and see how well those fog lights cover the area in the corner of the truck. All right, wiring's finished and everything is working as it should. You can see our backlighting there. Let's see if we get it from the same angle. So it is on right now, tied in with my relay that is triggered off my marker lights. So once I hit the fog light function on the truck, so let's turn that on. The fog lights will turn on and the amber backlighting will turn off. So you can see they're working perfectly fine. So we'll wait till it's a little bit darker outside so we can aim everything, but everything's looking good so far. There's a little bit of room. You could push things up and down inside the slot. So we should have a little bit of room and a little bit of adjustability once we get outside and get some nighttime so we can see that light coverage. But anyway, super easy install. Everything's plug and play, 100% bolt on. So this is the Diode Dynamics fog light kit for the 2019 and newer new body style Ram 1500s. Little bit different than the installation on a regular non-Rebel Ram, but all in all, it's very doable. But with that said, thank you very much for watching. Let's go ahead and take a look at these guys at night. All right, so it is evening here and I got the fog lights aimed, so let's go ahead and take a look at the lighting layout here. But real quick, I got the headlights turned off and really just the daytime running lights on, the marker lights on, and the truck looks awesome. So the amber backlighting and the fog lights with the SS5s, plus my mirrors that are on all the time as marker lights, it really looks great. So anyway, let's go ahead and hop in the truck and take a look at what the light pattern looks like with just the fog lights. I'm gonna leave the headlights off, but just the fog lights. And I just aimed them. So really what I was trying to do is wash like the 20 to 30 feet in front of the truck with the lights. I will say those corner ones do shine quite a bit out to the side. So I have them pushed a little bit forward, but you'll see that in a minute here. But let's go ahead and get the fog lights turned on and we'll take a look at the light pattern and see how well it shines in front of the truck. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at that fog light pattern here. So right now, again, I just have the DRLs on, which is just gonna turn on the backlighting, the marker lights, and then those top and bottom LED strips on the headlights. So when I turn the fog lights on, boom, there is the light pattern. And you can see I'm basically standing right here level with the front of the truck. And you can see I get nice wash out to the side here, all the way up to the middle of the truck, and then the passenger side one picks up off to the side as well. So I probably could adjust this one just a smidge to the side, but here I'm standing right in the middle of the truck here, and you got about 120 degrees, 140 degrees of light coverage in front of the truck. And like I said, I have them adjusted right now, so I'm washing at 20 to 30 foot in front of my truck. I can adjust them further on down the road if I want to, or I could lower them so I wash right here. But right now we're going to see, you know, just with night driving how well this does. But again, I'm blown away at the light output improvement versus the factory LEDs. Like I said before, the factory LEDs were awesome LED fog lights, but these are really good. I mean, this is awesome coverage. Anyways, they look awesome, and the beauty is just looking at them, you're not getting glare bombed by them. So you know when you throw LED bulbs in halogen headlights, you get that glare bomb. You're not getting it off these, and that's because these are SAE compliant, and Diode Dynamics did their homework on speccing these fogs for the kit. So let's turn that on and off so you can see the difference one more time. So fog lights on, fog lights off, fog lights on. Let's go ahead and turn the headlights on. So there you go. You see the fog lights go about 35 feet in front of my truck, and then my headlights pick up the rest of it. So pretty awesome, nice coverage, gives it basically daylight in front of my truck without blinding oncoming traffic. So again, headlights off, fog lights off. Let's turn headlights on only. Oop. Headlights on only. So you can see that dark spot in front of the truck. That's what I was targeting as far as washing with those fog lights. Fog lights on, and there you go. You got that nice coverage. And you know what? Let's actually look off to the side as well. So you can see these things are basically acting like ditch lights. So side of the road's pretty dark. You can't see the cornfield or soy field. Turn it on, boom, there's the corn. But anyways, that's the light coverage of the 5th Gen Ram Diode Dynamics fog light kit. I am blown away at the light output coverage of these things. I think they look absolutely stunning. With the amber backlighting on there, and their performance is absolutely top notch. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned how to install these guys. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Also, side note, I ran into the owner of that house way down the road here. So I ran into him a few times when I was doing videos. This is a really nice road for me to do lighting videos on. And actually, he's a really cool dude. I think he's got a Scat Pack charger. And he told me that he's wrapping a TRX right now at his shop. So I guess he owns a shop that does wrapping. So maybe we swing by his shop one of these days and have the Rebel wrapped. But anyways, to finish everything up, Diode Dynamics fog light kit. It looks absolutely awesome on the front end of the Rebel. If you have any questions, let me know. But with that said, thank you very much for watching. Definitely make sure you subscribe. Got more videos in the loop. Thanks a lot. Bye.